Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your schedules to spend some time with us up here in Citrus County this afternoon. We want to welcome you to the Citrus County Sheriff's Office Emergency Operations Center, where we're going to talk about Operation Summer in the Slammer. This 3-week-long operation aimed to take numerous drug dealers and habitual drug abusers off the streets of Citrus County so that we could get them into the judicial system and perhaps maybe get some of the help that they so desperately need. Despite all the diligent efforts that our detectives and our partners at the U.S. Marshals Service put into this operation, I'm utterly appalled to look at the photos of 64 individuals who went out and trafficked fentanyl, trafficked methamphetamine, and dealt other dangerous narcotics to members of our community. Over the course of this operation, our team made 64 full arrests and incarcerated these individuals at the Citrus County Jail. Drug dealers, drug abusers, several on their 3rd, 4th, and 5th offense for drug charges. Also some charges ranging from fleeing and eluding to driving without a license or driving while the license was suspended, or purely trafficking in narcotics. Now, before we kicked this operation off on the 14th of June, we actually had a little pregame warm-up that took place on South Betty Point in Floral City, where this suspect right here, Mr. Justin Wilkerson, went out and attempted to flee from Deputy Elias and his canine partner Odie after earlier in the week fled from law enforcement, attempting to make a lawful stop to stop this individual from peddling dangerous fentanyl into our community. Unfortunately, as he tried to flee, he went down a one-way road, boxed in, he cut into somebody's yard in a vehicle that had stolen plates on it, in a vehicle that we still have not yet been able to determine if it was stolen or not, but we're still working that part of the case. But he had fentanyl in his possession. He had 2 prior charges of driving while his license was suspended. He was charged with 2 counts of fleeing and eluding. He was charged with aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer. And in fact, some of you may recall from going back to the 10th of June that this was a situation that involved an officer-involved shooting where this individual, Mr. Wilkerson, attempted to run over and kill one of our deputies who was out there performing his lawful duties to protect the citizens of our community. And he also was a felon that had been convicted in a previous case of very serious felony crime, but he had a firearm on him. And he also had ammunition, which is absolutely something that we don't want to see a convicted felon have in his or her possession anywhere in our community. Now, I'll tell you, one of the things that all of these folks have in common, especially the drug traffickers, they have a blatant disregard for human life and a respect for their fellow human beings. We had a total of 13 individuals who trafficked fentanyl and methamphetamine in our community, plus 2 more for selling and distribution charges. And a lot of these aren't first-time offenders, as you may recognize some of these photos from some of our previous arrests. Many of these arrestees, in fact, have a very extensive criminal history. Our top 10 offenders I'll highlight for you here. First one, Rufus Hoyt, possession of methamphetamine and possession of fentanyl. 14 prior felony convictions. 14 prior felony convictions. And yet he's out here on our streets. Joseph Sarus, possession of methamphetamine and possession of drug paraphernalia. 5 prior felony convictions. Robert William, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, carrying a concealed weapon, grand theft, failure to appear, fleeing and eluding from law enforcement, and of course, driving while his license was suspended or revoked. 7 prior felony convictions. Not the type of people we want to have out on our streets creating more havoc and committing more crimes and really disrupting the lives of so many of our great citizens who call Citrus County home. Jesse Wells, gotta love the tattoos on the forehead right there. 11 felony convictions. He was charged with fleeing and eluding from law enforcement. Ontario Harvin, 10 felony convictions, this time charged with trafficking of methamphetamine, trafficking fentanyl, renting, owning, or leasing a house for trafficking narcotics, possession of drug paraphernalia, evidence tampering, obstruction of a search warrant, and possession of cannabis under 20 grams. Justice Lucas, 9 prior felony convictions. 3 felony counts this time around of driving while his license was suspended or revoked. But he's also been involved with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, cocaine possession, and fleeing to elude while possessing cocaine. William Cavaco, his current charges: possession of fentanyl, possession of drug paraphernalia, 7 prior felony convictions before this arrest. Aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer, felony violation of parole, and felony larceny and burglary charges were just some of the charges that he saw in the past. Sean Newbanks, 4 prior felony convictions: defrauding a pawnbroker, dealing in stolen property, burglary, grand theft, possession of meth were the prior charges. This time around, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, carrying a concealed weapon by a convicted felon, and resisting without violence. Eddie Freeman, 9 prior felonies for fraud, felony FTA, violation of parole, grand theft, lewd and lascivious behavior. This time around, 2 counts of possession of cocaine, 2 counts of possession of cannabis, and 2 counts of possession of drug paraphernalia. Ahmad Suleiman, 7 prior felony convictions: armed robbery, kidnapping, felony battery, aggravated assault. This time around, we got him for possession of crack cocaine. Colin Moss, 4 prior felony convictions. This time around, trafficking fentanyl, sale of methamphetamine. This guy's not a good guy. Before I wrap up this part, I'll tell you, we got 5 more at large from this operation. And right now, in Citrus County, there are detectives and patrol deputies out looking for them. They know who they are. They know we're looking for them. And we hope they don't sleep at all until we get them behind bars. They always leave the lights on over at the Citrus County Jail, and they'll make bed space for anybody we haul off the streets to protect our citizens. As I've said before, and I've actually supported our great Attorney General's efforts to get fentanyl declared as a weapon of mass destruction. This time around, we seized enough fentanyl to kill more than 100,000 citizens right here in Citrus County. That's almost 2/3 of our county's population, just through this one operation. We also seized 636 grams of methamphetamine, along with more than 1,024 grams of other narcotics. As always, I'm extremely proud of our deputies, especially our patrol deputies that are out there on the streets. Enormously proud of our Tactical Impact Unit, who makes a huge difference in our war on drugs right here in Citrus County. We couldn't do our jobs without the great communications officers that are out there on duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, making sure that we send the right people with the right equipment to the right places to get after these criminals who are trying to prey upon our great citizens here in Citrus County. I'm also proud of our partnership with the United States Marshals Service. Our Marshals partners showed up in droves to help us out. This very room we are standing in right now was filled to standing room capacity last week when we started this roundup. And each and every day, they were relentless in the pursuit of these 64 individuals that we wanted to get pulled off of the streets of our community. And along the way, we also had another opportunity to partner with our great friends to the east, the Sumter County Sheriff's Office, to get one of these very dangerous suspects off of the streets and behind bars so that he can face a judge and explain his side of the story to why he was trafficking narcotics and why he was a felon in possession of a firearm. I'd also like to recap this discussion about fentanyl by reminding you all how dangerous this drug is. Every year, opioid overdoses in the United States of America kill enough people to fill Raymond James Stadium and all the people that are standing in the parking lot when a game goes off on a Sunday afternoon. 100,000+ people are dying due to the opioid epidemic in the United States of America. A great number of these narcotics and illegal drugs flow across the border between Mexico and the United States of America. Since we've been tracking fentanyl seizures in this county, we have seized enough fentanyl to kill 1,112,000 people. Last year, law enforcement in the state of Florida seized more fentanyl than the entire population of the great state of Florida. We must stop the flow of illegal drugs coming across the border between the United States and Mexico. We must put an end to it now, and we must put law enforcement out there doing the job that they're sworn to do to protect our citizens and protect our American way of life. We celebrated the 247th anniversary of this great nation just a day ago. A great nation takes care of its citizens, and it puts public safety at the forefront of everything it does. It's time for the people in Washington, D.C. to wake up and start taking care of business to protect our citizens so that we can get this scourge of fentanyl off of the streets of Citrus County, off of the streets of the great state of Florida, and off of the streets of the United States of America. I'm joined today by my great partner, Mr. Bill Gladson, the State Attorney for the 5th Judicial Circuit, and I ask him now to join us for a couple of remarks. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Sheriff. It's hard to follow that. My name is Bill Gladson. I am the State Attorney for the 5th Judicial Circuit. And some of the numbers the Sheriff just mentioned are absolutely staggering. And when I try to put it in perspective, because I've got 5 counties, it tells me that there's around 1.3 million people in the 5th Circuit. And if you're talking about 1.1 million people, and total could have been killed by the amount of fentanyl collected by the Citrus County Sheriff's Office, that's almost the entire 5th Circuit. And that number should scare everybody. That is staggering. But it's a testament to how hard the sheriff and his deputies work to keep these streets clean. So when I was talking to the prosecutors over the last week and a half about this operation and first appearances, we were looking at who was coming in, everybody who was being picked up. And as the sheriff indicated, extensive criminal history. Some of the people that were picked up had current charges pending, and they were out there, out on bond, committing new law violations. Some of them were arrested for trafficking when they were arrested on the warrants for trafficking. So it caused me to go ahead and look, how did we get here? Why are we at that point? Why are people out continuing to commit crimes? So I started looking at different numbers to see how we compared. One of the things that I saw was that Citrus County, out of the 67 counties in the state of Florida, ranks 24 on prison admissions. And what that says, that's pretty high considering Citrus County's size. That Citrus County and the work that the deputies do and the work of the prosecutors in our office routinely punch above their weight class. That is impressive, to be ranked 24 out of in the whole state of counties for prison admissions. So thank you, and thank your deputies for the work that they do. It is an honor to be the state attorney in this circuit. And as the sheriff said earlier, the partnerships between the agencies, all of the task force officers, the federal, state, and local agencies that come together to work on operations like this, these really make an impact, particularly on a community of this size. It really changes people's lives. It saves lives. We've seen fentanyl devastate communities, overwhelm the criminal justice system in a lot of ways, and it just needs to stop. So I thank you for all that, Sheriff.
Thank you. We can take a couple questions if anybody has any questions.
Can you guys give any special insight as to just how you guys track them down? Or did they know each other? Did any of these people know each other?
Some of these folks know each other quite well because not only are we picking up the traffickers, we're picking up some of their customers along the way. And I'll tell you something that's very sad about this. It's Evan, right? Jordan, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Jordan.
go ahead.
Okay. So Jordan, we created a behavioral health unit in the Citrus County Sheriff's Office 2.5 years ago. Out of the 64 people that we arrested during this operation, only 2 of them have been clients of ours through our behavioral health unit. They're not getting the message. That really goes back to tell you how powerfully addictive these opiates are, especially fentanyl. And some of the things that some of our fellow sheriffs in the Tampa Bay area have been talking about for over a year now, when we sat down with Senator Scott and we had a roundtable about the fentanyl crisis and the things that he's trying to do in Washington, D.C. to help law enforcement to protect our citizens out here. Our citizens fall victim to many crimes that are crimes of opportunity because of the fentanyl and opiate addictions that are out there. These people are trying to get money any way that they can to go out and buy their next fix from one of these pushers that's trafficking in this deadly fentanyl that's out there. And I'll also tell you that we're very humbled by the hard work in our partnership with the state attorney's office here to be able to get some of these traffickers charged and sent to jail for murder. We've gotten some folks charged with those very specific charges, and we're still working our way through the judicial system for that. But if you're going to traffic in fentanyl and you kill somebody, we're going to go after you, and we're going to see if we can put you in jail for a very long time.
Sheriff, do you get enough support from the judicial system? And as far as, I know you just said that about making the punishment more strict, but just the background as far as making these crimes more serious for the charges.
Well, I think we get enough support from the judicial system. What we need to do is we've got to stop the flow of the drugs coming into the community. It is so easy to smuggle things across the border between the United States and Mexico right now that when Colonel Farrar and I were out there last fall to do our site visit with the president of the Florida Sheriff's Association, Sheriff Dean Heiss, and Congressman Bill Arakis, we went out and looked at it, and the border is wide open. And the cartel controls everything on the south side of the border between Mexico and the United States. And as long as that border remains in the control of the cartel hands, and it's so porous out there, and we don't have a way of stopping so many illegal things from coming across the border, it's going to be a continuous fight that we have to go out and fight in order to protect our citizens. But I've got great support from our state attorney's office, and all of the folks across the circuit are going after it. And I know up in Tallahassee, we've got great support from the governor and the legislature, and you can't find a more staunch and ardent supporter of law enforcement than our own Attorney General, Ashley Moody, who works tirelessly to give us the tools and also to help us get the prosecutions that we need to put these drug pushers in jail for a very long time.
Sheriff,
Sheriff.
you mentioned, go ahead, Steve.
Go ahead. Sheriff, Steve Steiner for Chronicle. You mentioned a few minutes ago that a number of these individuals know one another, but are any of them together in a form of a syndicate of some sort?
We don't have any indications that they're in a larger syndicate. We've got some stuff that we are working on to try and connect some of the dots, but right now, none of these folks appear to be in an organized criminal cartel or syndicate operation.
Sheriff, you mentioned you identified the southern border as being regionally where a lot of this fentanyl is coming from. Have you identified the local avenues where these drugs are coming in and out?
So we will tell you that off the record, we're not going to have a conversation about that in order to protect the integrity of some ongoing operations. We've just shown you 64 mugshots, ladies and gentlemen. We got a lot more out there that we're trying to get after and target to get those folks a pair of silver bracelets and put them up over at the Citrus County Jail and let them explain to one of our fine judges why they're trafficking in a very deadly narcotic that could kill, as you know, tens of thousands of people. Every one of these guys out here had enough drugs to kill tens of thousands of people in their possession. So we're working very fervently to see if we can make sure that we get the right people behind bars. But as far as the flow, I would rather not talk about it, other than the fact that we know that it's flowing. And I've said it before. Every county in America is a border county as long as the border between the U.S. and Mexico remains open. Every county. I don't care where you're at and what you're doing, every county is a border county because it is so cheap to produce in massive quantities and so very inexpensive to get across that border. And it doesn't take much. You've all seen the graphic of a Lincoln penny with what appears to be a couple of grains of salt on that head of that penny. And that's enough fentanyl. That's 2 milligrams of fentanyl. That's enough to kill every human being. A single couple of grains is enough to kill a human being. And the stuff that's coming out right now is not pharmaceutical grade fentanyl. In fact, down in Naples, just last week, I think there were 10,000 fentanyl pills seized from a family down there in just south of Naples, in one of the communities south of Naples, down in Collier County. So it's a very tough problem out there. Got time for one more question?
Real quick, Sheriff. 10 years ago, this press conference would probably be about meth and meth labs. Quickly, this fentanyl has taken over.
Yeah, it is alarming how quickly it's taken over, and it's because it's so cheap and it's being produced in such massive quantities. We know that the Chinese are sending this deadly fentanyl to Mexico. They're getting it into the hands of, well, actually, they're sending the chemicals to Mexico, getting in the hands of the cartel, and the cartel's running the stuff as fast as they can to produce as much deadly fentanyl as they possibly can. And they don't mind losing a few pounds here and there because they're flooding the zone with so much more fentanyl out there to try and kill people.
And a quick follow-up. So would you say that steps that you've taken have reduced the number of meth labs and that kind of thing, or is that kind of like in the background?
Well, we have sent a very strong message about the methamphetamine, but I will tell you, the meth that we're seeing now is very high-grade methamphetamine, and it's also coming across the border between Mexico and the U.S. We have not busted a meth lab here in Citrus County in probably 5 years. I think the last time we did a meth lab, and it was over there back in, off of, School? Off of School Avenue. Where? Yeah, they were just one-pot cooks. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you.